30 years, Robert Edward Auctions has been the nation's premier auction house specializing in sports memorabilia and trading cards. With significant experience and expertise in all major sport, non-sport, and Americana collectibles, REA has helped clients achieve record-breaking prices for their items and has done so with a reputation for integrity and transparency. By actively partnering with collectors and enthusiasts throughout the entire process, REA has created the hobby's most trusted forum for selling high-quality collectibles. Go to robertedwardauctions.com for more information on how to buy or sell in their next auction.
I'm Danny Black.
And I'm John Newman.
Welcome to Card Mentions.
Well, hello, and welcome to episode 20 of Card Mentions. I am Danny Black, and I'm joined by my mensch of a friend, John Newman. What's going on, buddy?
Morning. Yeah, episode 20. Who would have thunk it?
Did you say morning? I think you meant Modelo.
It's morning somewhere. That's where
right. Exactly. Can you believe I nailed that?
Yeah, you did. That was like the perfect game of openings.
I'm done at this point. I'm good for the night.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time on episode 21.
First of all, we got lots of hellos to catch up to. Ruben, wow, no hats either one of you guys tonight. Ruben. It came down to a last-minute decision. I'm not going to lie.
Orlando, I see Orlando's here. So let me give you a little. If I don't wear a hat, that means I got a haircut. When I'm wearing a hat, not 100%. I don't want to say that 100% across the board, but on like video, if I'm wearing a hat, that means my hair is getting a little bit too long, and I don't want to like I just put the hat on. Again, not 100%, but usually. So I got my hair cut yesterday for the first day of school today, and so I'm not rocking the hat. I have plenty of hats. I posted on Instagram. I don't know if you saw that, Danny. I counted up how many hats I have. I kid you not, I have 70 hats.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Like, who needs 70 hats?
Not I. I have two. I have two that I wear. I've got like the old ones you keep.
My wife saw that post and she's like, "You think about getting rid of some of those?" And I'm like, "Nope."
Well, you also cleaned up.
I did a lot of like maintenance, like metrosexual stuff.
I know.
Yesterday, and my last like weekday off, except for Labor Day before school starts, which was today. It was weird, when I woke up today to go to school. The kids aren't there yet, but as teachers and TAs, were there kind of prepping for their arrival. And when I woke up today, it felt like a Monday going back to work. And so now it's Friday. It's sort of like I'm in a really good mood because you wake up thinking it's Monday and then it instantly turns to Friday. How can you not be in a good mood when that happens?
Well, see, I had the reverse. I thought last night was Friday night. I worked late and woke up and realized today was Friday.
Yeah, it just felt like a Monday. Last night felt like a Sunday, knowing I had to go back to school. And then it's like, 3 days. And that not just a regular Friday, but a 3-day weekend Friday with Labor Day. And I'll say it at the end, but, I hope everyone has a safe and great Labor Day weekend. Have fun and whatever you're doing. I know there's some card shows and cookouts with family and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yep, and if you're heading to Burbank, hello, say hi. Definitely drop in the chat. I know John said hello, but a hello shout out to Dylan as well, Mookie, Chris, Orlando. I think we're trying to catch up on everybody there.
Ruben, Mookie, Chris. We said people twice. We didn't charge you extra for the second one. So it's still
right.
Free. So.
So I want to talk about tonight's topic because it's an interesting one.
There's a topic? I thought we were just going to talk about Labor Day and my hair all day.
Well, we are. Look what we've started now. I also got a haircut yesterday going to a card show in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah. By the way, people don't know this. I lived in Fort Lauderdale for like 2.5 years back in the day.
As Johnny Carson would say, I did not know
That's
that.
that's where Jason Varitek hit a home run off me to go to the Little League World Series.
I did know that. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Can we move on from the Paul Mitchell haircuttery segment?
Supercuts.
Remember that?
They're not. Maybe we should get them.
I don't know if
I didn't go to.
I don't know if Paul Mitchell's still in business. Are they?
Yeah.
I don't have hair. I don't have hair. I haven't shopped for hair products in 20 years.
I'm getting less. Like I got the LeBron James. It keeps going back further.
No. Mookie said you got sick flow.
Well, I do. Let me put it this way: I do the best with what I got. Like I make the best out of it. Right? It's like you have some ingredients and you cook some soup up and it comes out okay. That's kind of the analogy I'll use.
All I'll say is if I have a sick flow right now, there's usually a prostate exam involved. Dylan says reading The Catcher Was a Spy, Danny. Oh, making me happy, Dylan. My Moberg is right there. So when you finish the book, tell me what you think. And if you don't buy a Moberg within 24 hours, I'll be shocked.
He might have a Moberg. You don't even know.
Nobody has a Moberg unless they know the story. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, he had 6 home runs in his career. It's not like he lit the league on fire.
Well, that's my point. No, who collects backup catchers like Jason Varitek? You know,
Jason Varitek was. Don't get me going. Listen, besides taking me deep, he was in the Little League World Series. He was in the Olympics. He won a World Series. I know I left something off. I think there was like 4 things: College World Series, Little League World Series, Olympics, and Major League Baseball World Series. So Jason Varitek did pretty well for himself, and he's got me to thank, I believe.
Yes, taking you deep was definitely the highlight. Ruben says maybe I should grow my hair out to daunt you to a next year's national. I'm close in age to both of you. Ruben, having more hair than me is not a goal in life. You can do better. All I'm saying is we have more hope for you than that.
And I get it, and that's the other day. I always get my national haircut about a week or 2 before the show.
Oh, all right. Can we? I'm going to try to get us back on track. I feel like Ernie Johnson trying to steer the NBA show.
They were 8 minutes in, and we haven't talked about the topic.
Well, here's what the topic was supposed to be. We'll see if we get there. The topic was supposed to be that we really want to talk about how to buy cards without going broke, funding your own hobby, or other ways to really get into your collection. I invested into that because I am a personal collector, so I think there's a side to that there that I really want to talk about. I feel like I get to talk about business a lot, and it's nice to talk about cards in my own collection and how I fund that. But do you want to talk about your collection? Because not a lot of people know that all the different sides of your world as a collector, dealer.
So I don't know if I don't mean any offense by the term, but I'm hobby schizophrenic, and so I have a split personality. I have a dealer inventory, show inventory as a dealer, and I have a personal collection. Anything you really see kind of behind me on the walls, and that's not even everything, but definitely all the stuff on the walls does not go to shows with me, and then you can't see it on camera, and I'm not going to move the camera. But over there, I have metal racks. One metal rack is still PC stuff, and the other metal rack is all show, like graded card carrying cases, regular cards, shoe boxes, monster boxes, sealed wax that goes to the show with me. So I have one metal rack with show inventory, another metal rack with stuff that doesn't go to the show. The stuff on the walls is personal. And so that's why I say it's kind of dual personality. I have a show inventory and stuff that I have no intentions to sell. that doesn't go to the show. And I know a lot of dealers, Danny, will take even their PC stuff to the show with them. With sometimes the thought process, well, if I can sell it and upgrade or trade cash, and maybe I don't think along those lines. So everything I bring to the show is available for sale, or doesn't go
But can I say that for some people is their system, and I just want to acknowledge it. Some people kind of blend the two, and they use one to fund the other, and they kind of mix the books there. Not your system, not my system personally, for the most part, but that is for some people.
And even when I got the Jackie Leaf, a lot of people who were even locally who listen to the podcast or follow me knew I got it. And the first show I did after acquiring it, I had people come up to my showcases and like, where is it? I'm like, I didn't bring it. It's not for sale. Like, oh, I wanted to see it. Like, and that's my point is I don't bring PC stuff with me to the show. I know other dealers do. I've had other dealers say, listen, I'll bring it. I'll just price it at a price where it's probably not going to sell. I'm going to be over comps. I don't even want to do that, Danny, because then it takes up a space in the showcase for another card I could have out that's really for sale. And so I don't do that. I don't like to be over comps. It's, you know what I mean? Sometimes I can rub people the wrong way. I'm not saying I've never done it ever, but I try not to.
Yeah, and I know that you don't, and we're going to talk about this also, is breaking, not with a breaker, but personally. Neither one of us does a ton of breaking. The little bit I do, most of that goes into the PC or to the kids. Who am I kidding? I've never hit anything, so I couldn't tell you where it would go if I did hit something.
So I used to open more newer current wax, if you will, about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. And you learn, right? You learn by trial and error. You learn the hard way that you really don't, with the rare exception, you don't really come out ahead on that. And I've talked about this on Sports Card Nation. At one point, I had a $10,000 credit card debt from just opening like new wax at the time. And I really took a step back and said, that's ridiculous. Just think of all the vintage I could buy with a decent vintage with 10 grand. I obviously paid that credit card. I zeroed it
Think
out.
how much bad vintage you could buy with 10 grand.
Yeah, a lot. So I learned by trial and error, and that's why I don't have a problem sharing L's. Like, right, we, content creators like to share all their wins. Hey, I bought this for 200. I sold it for 1,500. Pat myself on the back, and that's great. But when I one of the things I will pat myself on the back after saying that is I'll tell you about the losses. I'll tell you about the stupid things or the mulligans I would, do over if I could. And that's one of them. Running up a 10K credit card bill on opening newer wax. And I just learned, it's like Pavlov's experiment, right? You keep going into the dark alley and you get hit over the head with a club. At some point you're going to stop running into the alley because you know what's coming. That's how it was with newer wax. And I'm not saying I don't open it at all. I just pick my spots and nowhere near what I used to do.
You and I, we did we broke a box for fun at the National.
Yep.
Just for a shit and a giggle, and and neither one of us went into it expecting to make money on that box.
Yeah. No, and it was fun, and it didn't break anybody's bank, and that's how you need to approach it. But people, it's like a lottery ticket, man. Some people could go up to the front counter and just buy a couple of them, and then other people on Friday payday, they're buying 150, different scratch offs, and that's where that's the difference, right? And I used to be the 150 scratch off guy with wax, not with actual scratch offs. And now I'm the, give me a 2 or 3 and I'm good. And if I win, awesome. If I don't, it was fun for, the hour it took or whatever. So.
All right. So how do you fund your personal PC?
I'm a little. I do some. I don't want to say weird stuff. I do some different things. I do a dollar envelope. So every day when I get home, any ones that are in my pocket, any singles, I take out of my pocket and put into an envelope and forget about it. And when I get 50, I put the band around it and I put it in the safe. And at the end of the year, what I do when I say end of the year, my end of the year now becomes the week before the National. So not December, but in July, I take all those ones and I go to the bank and I get bigger bills and turn them in. And so this year, I'll be very transparent. This year, I had $650 in July from those ones. My highest year was 1,300. 1 year, actually, I don't know what
Well, you
was
were in
going
better
on that
shape. You
year.
were you were dancing more and got more singles that year.
Yeah, I was better looking because I was probably 7 years younger, and the ones were flowing a little bit better. Well, 1 year was $1,300. I don't know what happened that year. Just a lot. Maybe where I was shopping, instead of giving me a five, they were like, "Hey, I'm out of fives. You mind 5 ones?" Yeah, fine. That's all spends the same. So it varies. It averages about what it was this year, $650 to $800. And when by doing that, Danny, you don't even notice it. You're a couple bucks a day. The other thing I do, I think a lot of people do this, is they'll just put money aside, right? In general, right? You have kind of almost like a Christmas club. Obviously, a little bit different for me is when I do a show as a dealer. If you have a great show, obviously some of the money's got to go back into buying new inventory and replenishing. But I had a couple great shows, and I got to put some money just towards national or a trip or whatever. So that's how I do it. Um, but there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. That's just what works for me. Um, and the other thing here, I don't know how it is with everyone else. I have to deposit so much a week for things that have to be covered, on the domestic front. Anything after that deposit, and the rest is kind of pocket money, play money. And so, depending on how the week was and that sort of thing, I'll put some of that money away. So, and this year, I'm going to try to do even more of that leading up to next year's national. Now, here's the other thing, and I'll give credit where credit's due. Mike Summer came up with the self-sustaining hobby, and it's probably the best way to do it. Quite frankly, right? Don't spend money you don't have. You can get in trouble. I.e., $10,000 credit card bill that I did pay off. But I will say this: as a dealer, I sometimes, and I did a show about this on Hobby Quick Hits. As a dealer, and this can be as even as just a collector, even if you're not a dealer, if the deal is really good, and I'll still, you know, buy the deal, and like whether I take an advance on a credit card, I've done that. If it's a deal and it's, I've bought a $10,000 collection, let's say, because I knew it would be worth three or four more times that to in resale value. I might not have had $10,000 at the time. Maybe I had whatever, and I had to offset the difference via credit card. I will do that knowing I'm going to be fine. You got to be very confident where you're at with that. I don't kind of preach to everyone should do that because I don't want someone to. I'll
Well,
feel a
you're
little
you're
bit
also
guilty if
buying you're
someone
also
did that
buying
and
the
they said, "John,
collection.
I took your advice and I didn't, I didn't, it didn't pan out." I'm just willing to take. I'm willing to take that leap, just based on my experience. I did my first show in 1987 as a 15-year-old kid, so I know kind of where things are at and if the deal's good. So I went on my show and said, listen, for me, I've spent money I didn't have. When I had my store in the early 90s with my partner, we took out a loan to buy, cases of wax that we needed for the store, knowing we would pay it back and then have a profit from it. So there are times when I will advocate for spending money you don't have at that moment. you just got to be really disciplined and really careful there. I don't want just be careful. If you do that, be sharp enough to know like you're going to come out okay.
Well, I think we're going to come back around to that a couple times because the fund the hobby for yourself and self funding is one of the biggest things that I think a lot of people use as a technique to stay within themselves. But I wanted to touch on a couple comments here. Chris Ramsey says, "What's your thoughts on Ronald Acuna hitting 30 homers and 60 steals, guys?" I don't think he's done. I think we could see 40, 70. I think he's going to be the MVP. Oh, yeah, I used to work for the Atlanta Braves, and I'm a diehard Braves fan. So I might be a little biased on that one because of my love for the Braves. But Acuna, to me, is having an all-time great year. First player ever 30 and 60. And I think he'll be the first player ever 40 and 70. So I just wanted to answer that for Chris. And, in fact, where is it? It's over the other shoulder. There's his gold rookie there. Ruben, take this for John and I both here. Ruben asks a great question. To save money, is it better to buy ungraded vintage than go and get it graded? I understand the authenticity aspect of buying it already graded. John, you want to hit this first, or you want me to tackle it?
No, I'll take it because I just did an episode on Hobby Quick Hits. One of my favorite, I did a Q&A, Dan, as you know, I'll do that sometimes.
Yep.
And one of the questions I got asked on that Q&A was like, what's one of my favorite things to do in the hobby? And there's a lot. It's hard to pick one. One of the things I personally love to do is buy something raw and then in turn submit it for grading and do well on it with your eye, right? You kind of, we all look at a card and say, man, a raw card in this case, say, I think if I submit that, it will get this. Now, what can I buy it for? And is it going to be a win for me, right? And one of my favorite things to do is buy raw vintage and then in turn get it slabbed and do well. And I'll say this to Ruben: if you got a good eye and you're good at it, you can really do well by you're better if you're good at it. You'll be more successful buying raw vintage than buying it already graded because you're paying that price is baked in already. The caveat there, Ruben and everyone else, is that you got to be careful with trimming, recoloring, um, whether something's fake or real. I do SGC bulk subs, and not my cards, but I had someone who subbed, a Pete Rose rookie, and it came back authentic, recolored. A Jeter came back, a Jeter SP, same order, different person, but same order, came back minimum size not met. I know Jeter's not necessarily vintage where the Rose is, but I use those two as examples where you could get burned, right? If you paid for a Jeter raw thinking it was going to get a 7 or 8 and it came back as minimum size not met, you lose. If you buy that Rose, depending on what you buy it at, maybe that guy got in cheap and he's still okay. But if you bought it thinking it was going to get a 4 or 5 and then it comes back as authentic color added, you probably lost some money on that deal. So I do well with that, but you've got to sort of have a knowledge base and an eye. But if you're careful and do some research, it's a great way to sort of upgrade. You buy it sort of the basement level, and you go up a couple floors in the elevator, and you feel even better when those successes happen.
But be careful because a lot of the dealers who have a quality raw card know what they have. So if it looks too good to be true, just take that into consideration. Nobody sell a mint 10 for the price of a mint, of a poor 1, just because it's raw.
Here's a question for you, Danny, and everyone in the chat or listening out there. Right, you're at a show. You're not set up. You're at a show just as a consumer. You're looking to buy raw vintage, right? And you go to a dealer's table who, just like you said, has raw vintage and graded vintage. Do you say, and be honest, do you say, man, does this, if he has vintage graded and then he has this raw has to be not up to snuff, or he would have sent it for grading. It wouldn't be raw. What's your thought process there?
If I don't know the dealer, I'm more hesitant. If I know the dealer, I'll ask them the question.
But what are they gonna say? Do you think you expect the dealer to say, no, I just got those and I haven't decided to send them in yet? Which actually may be honest truth. It could be the honest.
If I have a relationship with them, sometimes they'll say, I picked it up last week in Cincinnati at that show, and I haven't gotten home yet to do a submission, so I just am keeping them in the case. Are they telling me the truth? I don't know. But, you know, if I have that relationship, I trust it a little bit more. However, if it's raw, I'm going to look at it 16 times over. And maybe I'm a natural skeptic, but I am a natural skeptic.
All right. So here's another question. And what's the etiquette here? What do you think? And you've set up at shows. I set up at shows. What do you think when someone like looks at a raw card and then pulls out like a little loop, this thing right here, to look at a card? What do you think about that? Is it bad etiquette or is it okay?
I'm old school where you just ask permission. Like, do you mind if I put a loop on this? And I find as long as you do that, most dealers are comfortable with it. And if they're really not comfortable with it, that's all I need to know anyway.
You think you should ask though? You think you have to ask before doing it?
I think it's good manners. Just like if you're going to take a picture of somebody's cards, you know, I always ask, do you mind if I just take a picture? I do think it's respectful, but that's from being on the other side.
It doesn't bother me if someone does it at my table. It's fine if they're going to buy a card, right? I don't do it. Like, I'll look at the card with my naked eye and just try to do the best I can. You know, I do have glasses. So usually if I go to show, although I didn't wear them at the National, they were in my backpack. I never pulled them out, but I will put glasses on to maybe get a better view, especially of a vintage card.
So what's the difference?
It really isn't. It doesn't bother me. I just feel, I guess it's more me. I just feel a little bit odd if I take this out at someone's table and look at a card.
It's a little pretentious, you know, when you're at the dollar box doing it. But, you know, if you're buying an expensive card.
It's a great point here by Orlando, too. I want to put this on the screen. Yeah. It's okay to pull out a loop. Dealers do it when purchasing. You're right. And I have it at the shows where I'm set up.
Yep.
Do I use it every time? No. But have I used it at all? Sure, I have. And so, yeah, I guess turnabout is fair play, right? It actually doesn't bother me. I just feel a little self-conscious doing it when I'm looking. I don't know why. If you ask me why, I don't have I don't know. I'm not as comfortable of doing that as doing other stuff, or just put my glasses on and looking. But there's nothing wrong with it. Like, if someone does it when I'm set up, I don't think any less of them, and they're entitled to do so. I just tend not to do it for whatever reason.
Do you feel comfortable if somebody takes pictures of the cards and they want to send them to somebody?
Yeah, I don't mind. It's still my card, right? I mean, how do we know that doesn't lead to a sale down the line, right? Maybe that somebody is at the other end of the show looking for that card, and the next thing I know, both of those folks are in front of my table, and we're talking about a purchase and negotiating a deal, right? So I don't mind pictures. You know, someone told me, I said that once on my show, and someone sent me an email, John, but they could post your graded card on eBay or something like that as theirs, and so, you know, it's fraud. You know what I mean? That's the card's
their
still
problem,
mine.
and that's somebody else's problem.
And that's why you see a lot of people when they post like graded cards, they'll blur out or black bar the serial number. I don't even do that. Like if you want, like if that's what you do, that's an indictment on yourself that you steal other people's photos and post the cards as your own. I'm more worried about the card getting stolen and then it's really your card that you stole. I don't care if you steal the picture of it, and if you want to do like deceitful things, that's an indictment on you. I ultimately still have the card in my possession, and we know the old thing, right? You can coin it, you can do a lot of different things to prove that you actually have possession of the card if you need to go that far. So I'm not a guy that will block out my barcodes or I don't mind. And I will say this: most people are very polite and will say, "Can I, sir? Can I take a pic? Do you mind if I take a picture of the card?" And I'm like, "Go ahead." And even if they don't ask, it doesn't bother me. But the fact that most people do, it's just a next level of politeness. So
I you know what it is? I think it's handling the dealer's cards. I'm always more deferential to the dealer. Just anyway. One of the things that I'd like to throw out there, and let's say, John, you asked me, how do I buy cards without going broke? And I would answer. I would say, John, I do have ways that I buy cards without going broke. And one of those ways is I like to buy prospects and make a couple dollars, on a couple cards, and take that and turn it into a vintage single. So Mark Vientos, the great Met power hitter, and a couple other guys this year ended up getting me some of the cards at the National. And that's a system that I have fun with. It allows me to still buy Bowman prospects and the new cards that I like, and then I can turn it into what I ultimately want to keep in my PC. And that's all separate from any other work or dealer or anything else. That's just totally PC. And that's one of the ways that I self-fund it.
And I love it. And here's the thing, man. I'm happy to sell any of the new stuff and put it into vintage for the PC. I mean, I'm waving that same pennant, and we're on the same team, and I do that too. Maybe that I think that for me, I do a lot less prospecting than I used to do, especially on the Bowman side of the house. But sort of your show, right? My show inventory. Not that it's bad. I have a lot of nice cards for sale in the cases, but they're cards that I don't consider PC items, right? So you sell a nice show item for a good chunk of change, that potentially becomes, hey, I'm going to go and purchase a vintage PC card that I couldn't afford previously, but now I sold that card.
Guess what card I'm going to be selling soon?
Who's that, Mauricio?
Ronnie Mauricio. You know why? Because there's no connection to me.
I get it, but I really listen. I really like him. So just sometimes. So listen, it's a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes we sell too fast too. You can kind of not necessarily lose, but you maybe don't come out as far ahead as you can.
Well, I'll show everybody the 2010 Bowman Sterling Lindor rookie I am sending you.
All right, there you go. Another great point by Stuke here. I want to put his comment up too. This is, and then I'll tell a little personal story. So I get some deals when I ask a dealer if they have something I am looking for and it's behind the table. The more apt to give me a better deal on something that's not on the table. Great point. I have a sign on my tables when I set up at shows. It's nicely printed. It's in like a stand-up kind of holder, and it says, "Please, if you're looking for something, please ask. All my inventory is not out." And some people probably read it and still don't ask, but some people will ask, right? And say, "Hey, I don't see any in your cases. Do you have any so and so? I'm looking for Barry Larkin rookies." I'm just throwing something off the top of my head, right? And I have Barry Larkin rookies. They're just not out. I only have so much room, right? And you can make a sale. And Stukes is exactly right. I'm probably not 100% across the board. I'm more likely to give a better deal on something that's not out because it didn't kind of make the cut, right?
Well,
When you
that's
set up to the
exactly what I
show
was
as a
going to say.
dealer, it's
Yeah.
kind of like a draft, right? All your best stuff you want to get out there, and this is like it didn't make the cut. And so if you can sell something that's not out there, you're going to be more apt to give a what do you want to whether you want to call it a discount or a little bit of a concession there. So I have that sign. It's a great point by Stooks. I have a sign on my table that says, "If you don't see something, please ask. Not everything is out, invisible." So, and I love when people ask. The worst thing I can say is I don't have it. Sorry, and people are fine. Oh, that's no problem. I figured I'd ask, and it's all good, right? So it's a great point there. That exactly right. You should always try to ask. You just because I don't know very few dealers have all their stuff on the table. Maybe that one showcase dealer that has like one showcase on the table and like all blank space, all blank space. I went to a show this weekend here in Syracuse at the NBC Suites, and one of the dealers, he had a whole table, 6-8 foot. He had one showcase, with 40 cards out. Probably that's all he's got because he's got like 5 feet of table space blank. So that might, that's the exception to the rule. I wanted to man, just throw something out there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Well, I wanted to play this earlier when Ruben asked his question about buying raw and then getting it graded because we know that John likes to get his stuff.
Experience, quality, consistency, and the quickest turnaround times in the grading industry. We are proud to partner with SGC Grading. Check them out at www.gosgc.com.
Yeah, and speaking of grading and speaking of shows, right? We're talking about kind of both. I got a show coming up here September 10th. It's my first one in like 4 months. And that's at the fairgrounds here in Syracuse, New York. I will have my 2 tables with my own stuff that we dabbled talking about a little bit. And I'll also have another table bulk subbing for SGC. So if you're in the area or in central New York, and you want to get your cards back quick, they're back to running about 7 to 10 days. I just got an order back, probably 11 days to be fully transparent, but that's pretty quick. So I'll be there September 10th at the New York State Fairgrounds.
What's up, Brendan? Now, I have a question for you. When you buy, do you typically buy graded, or are you buying raw for your PC?
I'll buy both. When I buy raw, it's with the hope that it probably can be graded. Now, have I bought raw and then I get home and then I really take a deep look at it and like I'm not going to submit it? Yeah, that happens, and I'm usually still at a price where it's okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not a deal breaker.
Why you pull out the loop?
Yeah. Well, I don't like to do that. It's goofy, man. I'll do it even as a dealer, I don't do it 100% of the time. Just some. I think the bigger the deal. Like if it's an expensive card and I'm talking about buying it, I really need to look at it, right? We're talking about a smaller deal. I'm a little bit let my guard down a little bit more. So I guess that's I'll use that as sort of an excuse. But I bought both. I'll buy. I tend to buy when I go to the National, as you well know, and we room together. A lot of the deals I got were there at the same time. When I buy like Hall of Fame, graded rookies, I tend to buy them already graded. Have I ever bought them raw and sent them in for grading? Sure. I think that's becoming harder to do than we think it is. Well, I don't know if you agree with that.
I'm also going to make a comment that you and I both will buy graded for the card, not the grade.
Yeah, no doubt.
So, to kind of contradict ourselves, I'm buying the best looking card I can buy at the best price I can buy it, that I feel comfortable that it's authentic and real in whatever fashion I can do that. I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about the K line deal. We both bought the dealer. I'll make the story the Cliff Notes version. We were both kind of looking at the same table. We both had sort of a K line rookie on the list. The dealer, mine's behind me as well. The dealer had 3 Al K line graded rookies, a 6 and 2 5s. Me and Danny kind of whispered like, "Hey, let's see if we get a deal if we each buy one and get sort of a combo deal." And the 2 5s were, and here's the perfect example of that. We wound up getting or no, it was a 6 5 and a 4.
No, it's 2 5s and a 4.
2 5s and a 4. 2 5s and a 4. And the 1 5 and the 1 4 were better than the 1 5. And so we got the 5 and the 4. And those were the 2 best cards out of the 3, even though 2 had the same grade of a 5. Like the 4 you got is better than the 5 we didn't buy. And I'm not saying that because it was our kind of a combo deal. It's because we both, it's funny, we didn't even like comment. We both looked and kind of came up with that consensus without any kind of conference or huddle. And so that sometimes the grades can be overrated too. And you got to keep that in mind as well. I've seen, I have a 1.5 Jackie. I saw 3 or 4 2s at the National that I wouldn't trade my card for straight up. And I'm just being blunt honest.
The one that I think we saw a handful of, it was the Aaron rookie. You were seeing grades 1, 2, higher than yours.
I wouldn't trade them. I wouldn't trade mine. Yeah. I have a 3.5. I wouldn't trade my 3.5 for a 4 or 5 that I saw. That people say, "How are you crazy?" Just because they were like way off center. They had print marks on them, and like truthfully, they were probably overgraded where mine's undergraded. And so sometimes you just that's the way it is. So be careful. A grade is subjective, right? How many times have we seen a Gem 10 and you look and it's got a ding corner, right? It's been always on social media, right? Those things occur. That's why it's not a foolproof system.
This comment from Orlando. I look for graded
cards. That's a good comment. I love it. It's true.
But I do that. This is exactly. I mean, I sent you a picture today.
It's smart.
Did I or did I not send you a picture today?
Yeah.
And because
Orlando, it's smart. I think smart. And again, I'm not trying to say some people. I think smart people do that, right? You get the best deal. You're paying a raw price, and that might grade well, and you got in at the bottom. That's just smart business. That's just smart economics. I don't even want to say business. You may not be in business. It's just smart economics. It's just smart buying on a buyer's part when they think along those lines, right? And it's I try to do that. It's just I don't know. It's getting a little bit harder to do. I mean, this still can do it. It just I think it's getting a little bit more difficult. I think it's getting a little bit more difficult, Danny, because more people are doing it, right? There's more competition.
Well, there's also more graded cards than there ever have been. And this is what Brendan Ryan makes the point, because the grade's only an opinion and not always done with care as grading volume rises. I don't even know if it's an issue of care as much as it is an opinion, and it is different companies, and it is different graders, and it is grading in 1999, versus 2023, or the technology, the what's important for the companies when they grade, how much importance they put towards surface versus centering. I mean, all these things, if you're not familiar, these have all changed over time. So, it's something to be aware of. Also looking at older graded cards, you might find some real steals because people pass up on older labels.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Sometimes I'll look at an older label, and maybe it can work the other way too, right? They just you find a deal. Maybe that was there's undergraded cards that are graded. I mean, I'm not a big cracker and resubber. I've done it once or twice in my whole life, but sometimes that opportunity is there. If you're looking at a card that's graded and it's, a 3 or 4, and you ask to see it and you take it out, you look at the front back, and he's like, man, this looks like it should be higher. Maybe that's where you take the loop out. Maybe there's a hidden crease I'm not seeing, a wrinkle, something, right? But you look at it real closely and you don't see any. Like, I just think this is undergraded. Crack it and resubmit it. I'm not a big cracker and resubber, but there's nothing illegal about that. It's not trimming or restoring. You're paying for the service again. That's all.
And I'm going to show this because this was the card I sent you earlier. I think this looks better than a 4.
Well, when it's that tiny, anything looks better from it.
Well, that's my secret. That's my secret. That's how I stay happily married.
Geez, let me hang on a second. Let me get this out.
You might want to get your glasses on.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think that looks better than a 4, and to the point of, is it undergraded? I think it is.
No, all joking aside, you texted me the picture, and I seen a bigger version of that, and you're right. So I'm just joking here, but yeah, sometimes graders, it's an opinion, right? So sometimes my wife says, "Hey, how does this shirt or this look?" Right, and I say, "Oh, it's great." Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's just good. I overrated the shirt or whatever, So, you got to keep that in mind, and that works both ways, right? A card can be undergraded, a card can be over. It's the K-Line story is the overgrade on the 1.5. To me, they had no business. The 5 we left in that case, to me, had no business being a 5. Yeah,
it could have been a 3.
So, yep, your 4 was in better shape. I put them side by side. And the 5 I got was in considerable better shape. So you got to take all that stuff into consideration.
Gum stains used to be an issue on vintage, but there's a remedy for that now, apparently.
I'm laughing at Ruben's comment too. Is the card a grower,
not a shower? Yes.
Now I could do my Costanza, like, it's cold, Jerry, in here.
Right.
The water's cold. All right. That's enough of that.
Shrinkage. My wife's hair is authentic color added, but I'll never tell.
Yeah. That's it, So there's deals to be that's a double-edged sword, right? A card can be given a grade that's too low for really what it is, and a card can be overgraded, and I've seen it both, and I think most people have, and most people who have a lot of graded cards probably own both of those, quite frankly, myself included.
Yes. Ruben is having a good time. For those of you,
I go in a hot tub, so there's no issues.
Yeah. I'm not even responding to that. Okay, let's move on. There are still deals at flea markets and antique shows. Yeah. They can be cheap or marked 10 times value. Yes, and yes, and most importantly, they are willing to negotiate very heavily. A lot of times, it's just rotating.
Another great point by Stooks, and this is something I want to start doing a little bit more of, Dan. I don't know if you get to do this. I do a little Uber after school and the 2 weeks before school starts again, and so I drive by like antique shops, and I never stop, but I want to start just running in there real quick and just saying, hey, do you got any sports cards? And just see, right? If they're overpriced, like Stu says, and sometimes they are. I have one in one. It's not even in business anymore. A couple years ago, there was one near where I play softball. So before the game, I actually went in there, and it was overpriced. It was like an '88 Fleer Glavine rookie, marked $20 and that sort of stuff. And you'll run into that.
A lot
of you've seen people post. Yeah. you've seen people post like, "Hey, I got this, pre-war for $5," and so there's people maybe not knowing what they have, or maybe it's a variant there's so many different, you can get so many steals there. I'm gonna start making a point to just, even if it's real quick, just going into some of these vintage or antique stores and just asking them, hey, do you have, just for saving time, like, hey, do you have any vintage sports cards? And or I'll just say, you have any sports cards in general, and see what they say. If they say no, I'm like, okay, thank you, and away you go. If they say yes, you see what they got, and like Stuke says, it's probably gonna be one way. There's no in between with those, right? It's gonna be like crazy overpriced, or you might get a deal, or what you said, Danny, is very true. The in between might be someone who's sort of priced right, but willing to negotiate, especially if you're buying multiple cards.
Yep. And Brendan, I mean, allowing for certain vintage and centering the way is practical, but the lack of hobby standard universal grading scale leaves a ton of those opinions in limbo. Yes, just getting back to your comment before, they're between the companies, between the scales. There's lots of opinions. This is why John and I were saying, not it really is the card.
And a universal grading scale, while on paper would be a great thing, we're never going to see it.
No.
And so it's like talking about a unicorn. And there's some
Yes.
people that probably believe that there really are unicorns, but I
Can
don't
I give
believe
away a
they
secret?
are.
Though? Can I give away a
Huh?
secret to everybody?
Sure.
I have cards from SGC and I have cards from PSA. And guess what? I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I have both of those, and I have a couple BGS.
It's the
cards
card.
left.
It's the card.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I tried crossing one card over and it didn't cross over. Other than that, I've never tried to cross a personal card over.
Yeah.
And I like both grading companies. I like having the cards, and that to me is more important than the number or which company graded it necessarily. If it's
and here's another great comment, if I may, what Mookie makes here, right here. He says, he bought a card in an SBC, and that's not a mistype, not SGC, SBC slab the other day. It's definitely undergraded. Never seen an SB slab before, but tried to cross it over. Yeah, right. Listen, GMA. I make jokes about him. Good Morning America grading, right?
Yep.
If you see it, if I don't see many vintage cards in GMA slab, but what if you found one, right? And you look at the card and it looks like a great, crack it out of there and send it to a legitimate and no offense to these other grading companies, but what I call the big four at this point, 3.5 almost now. But send it to one of those where you're more comfortable having that card in your collection, right? Nothing wrong with, again, you're buying the card. You can always crack the card out of whatever case it's in. In this case, SBC. I don't know what that even stands for. But maybe they're hoping people think it's SGC by accident and slip up and buy it. I don't know. But there's 1,000 people think I'm kidding when I say this. There are legitimately 1,000 graded card companies. Not legitimate ones. They're just legitimately 1,000 graded card companies. Okay, people doing it in their basement. Black Mamba, Your Mother's Ugly grading card company, whatever.
They're
There's
fantastic.
1,000 of them.
They're fantastic.
Yeah. Then don't let the name throw you off. They're okay, but there's 1,000 different grading card companies other than.
It's like waiting for a universal pop report,
Right. So if you're looking at, Acme grading card companies slab, and there's a nice card in it that someone for whatever reason subbed, and it looks nice, and the price is right, why wouldn't you buy it? It doesn't have to stay in there permanently. That's just a vessel that holds it. It's no, it's just a more beefed up soft sleeve or semi-rigid. get it out of there, sub it to your grading card company of choice, SGC, and subliminal message. But
Right.
all joking, whoever you want to and get it, and you might be surprised when you do that. And I don't think I've ever done that. But it's something to think about.
Ryan says, if you build it, they will come. Well, how about if you grade it, they will ship.
Yeah, one day, and someone says, how do you know there's 1,000 grading card companies, John? Because one day I went on the internet's invented by Al Gore, and I typed in grading card companies. And
if you're listening to the podcast, I am shaking my head right now.
Literally 1,000 different companies came up. And, I kind of went through and just started counting and counted, and then kind of did how many pages there were and did the old kind of grid mapping, and there's about 1,000.
Ruben, if you can't work hard and party hard, baby, this is the only way to do it. Cheers. Well, it always makes me think of your Mean Joe Green commercial,
That's why one of the reasons I'm a Steeler fan to this day, man, was that Mean Joe Green commercial. And Coke, listen, I don't drink as much soda as I used to, but Coke is my, Coke and RC Cola, which you don't hardly find.
I don't like killing my teeth, but when I do, it's Coca-Cola.
Oh, yeah. Well, I always joked, right? When I was a kid and collecting cards with my friends, they wanted my gum, and I wanted their cards. So I give my gum and get extra cards. So I didn't get the cavities from chewing gum. I got the cavities from all the soda I was drinking, celebrating all the gum I was trading for cards. Yeah.
There's another way to grow your collection in the hobby.
Yeah. And I had the cavities to prove, that I like soda.
All right, John, what's the next card or type of card you're actually targeting? Anything or is it just while you have a show? Is it going to be more the dealer, John?
Yeah, I wanted to, going to National, I wanted to get a Seaver and or Clemente rookie. I probably wasn't going to be able to get both. I wanted to get one. They were a little bit over comps on those particular two cards. I didn't run into a deal there. So they're still on my list. It's not like burning. My mind's not burning about it. It's just, it's just when the time's right or the price is right. I often get asked, as now that you got your Jackie, what's the next Grail card? I really don't have one. I think the Aaron that I wound up getting was kind of the next one after the Jackie. So I don't necessarily have another Grail card. I think you can't have too many Grail cards because then it kind of defeats, saying it's a Grail card. So I have cards I kind of want, not kind of, I do want, but nothing that I'm going to go, either overpay highly or, talk about spending more than you have, do that either. So it's just when I run into something, and I want what, my two big purchases were the Gibson, the K-Line rookies, and then the last one was a Frank Robinson rookie that I picked up, and I was good. I didn't get to see the Clemente, but I was good. It was a great show. You got your Moberg and the K-Line, and and all the other stuff.
Wait a second, it's the chicken back version Moberg. The chicken back.
Yeah, you need to get it slab where
I'm going to make it catch on. I want to get into the vintage catalog of baseball cards as the chicken back version.
I wonder how many are in that club. How many chicken back cards are there out there?
Right now, it's a pop. We're working on it, but it's a pop one. We're putting feelers out.
Do you have a card with a chicken back on it? Contact the show.
Right.
And let us know. But, and there's a lot of ways to not go broke, right? Just be smart and know your budget, right? If you have a budget, I have a budget. If I didn't have a budget, I would have had a Seaver Clemente rookie when I left Chicago, right?
So, John, if I didn't have three kids, I'd have a smile and a better collection.
Yeah. Well, that's that. Too late now. Can't put the genie back in the bottle. Trust me, I watched enough I Dream of Genie to know that, and Bewitched.
Yes. Real quick before we go, Ruben says, now that the Moberg has been captured, what's next?
That's a good question.
Yeah, Ruben, I'm on a little bit of an undervalued Hall of Fame rookie run. I got the 57 Frank Robinson. I think Jim Palmer's 66 is undervalued. I think that the 69 Reggie is undervalued. So not we'll see what I can find.
And I mean, you've talked about this yourself. 57 Brooks.
57
another card that for whatever reason at the
United.
National.
Yeah. And the 57 United.
You just didn't run into a deal, and that happens sometimes. You gotta grin and bear it and kind of pivot. And like for me, I had Seaver Clemente at the top of my list. That didn't work out. I just pivoted to Gibson, Kaline, and Robinson, right? So, and I'm happy. I had a great time. We did dinners, met people. I mean, that's what the National is all about. All the cards, the people, the whole shebang. And I stayed within my budget, right? I talk about spending money you don't have. I wasn't willing to necessarily do that at that particular time. So we'll see. You never know. You never know, right? We got this show, or I got this show coming up September 10th. Who knows what walks up to the table and someone, I've done I've done shows since 1987. I've gotten some, I've got people bring up cards to the table, and I pick out a few, and hey, what do you want? And they're like, comps are 300. I'd like to get 300. And I'm like, okay, where do I come in? And then I have other times where, they're like, hey, look, there's $2,000 comps, give me 1,100. It gives you room to. So, you never know what deal you will run across. And I think maybe that's a good way too, to kind of wrap it up, is to be patient, right? Don't be impatient. I think that's where you get in trouble and can go broke if you're impatient. If I was impatient with a Clemente Seaver, I might have just paid $500 over comps. Would I have it? Sure. Would I have buyers, sort of buyer's regret, remorse, a week or two after, when I realized I could have saved some money? Sure. So you gotta be disciplined. You gotta be think a little bit, past the moment, so to speak.
But buy what you like, buy within your budget, and you'll never be upset. This is not how to invest in cars. That was not tonight's show. This is not an investment special. This is for buying. I would say more for your PC.
And you just hear horror stories, right? I kind of told mine, with running up a 10K credit card. Thankfully that's in the rearview mirror, but it happened. And I talk about it because maybe I can help someone else not be in that predicament, and wasn't fun when I was in it. Because when you owe $10,000 on new wax, right? You're not buying stuff you really want to buy until you kind of dig out of that hole and level the ground, and then okay, I'm okay again. So, if anyone can, by telling that story for me, it can help someone else, why not tell it, right? And I'm a guy that will share the W's and the L's, right? No one's undefeated. No one is undefeated in this hobby. I don't care what they say on their podcast, or every week they come on and like, I won again, right? They're not Rocky Marciano. They're not undefeated. So don't buy that. I always ask that if I ever have that person on the show, I always ask them, like, I hear all the wins. Tell me about a time where you didn't win. I put them right on the hot seat. So,
well, I think on that note, John, we're going to take everybody off the hot seat. We're going to say thank you. This was cool. I think just for, these are a lot of the questions and the conversations we have off air is really just buying our own stuff and how we're doing it and what we're doing. And so I think we just wanted to share some of this for everybody.
And I got to say, a lot of great comments in the chat room on strategies and different things you can do, right? And there's stuff we didn't even talk about that are viable strategies too, right? We covered as much as we could. Again, great comments. I say it every week. We appreciate you, whether you're watching live, guys, or you're catching this show on podcast form after the fact. Either way, you're giving up your time, and we appreciate that. And yes, we appreciate that. Happy Labor Day, everybody. Stay safe, be well, and we'll see you. You want us? We may not be on.
Yeah. Okay. So
go ahead.
2 weeks from we're recording this live on Friday night. 2 weeks from tonight is actually the first night of Rosh Hashanah. So Card Mentions will not air live on Rosh Hashanah. We will actually air the night before on Thursday. So that is the plan right now, is to be live on Thursday at 9, just to clean up the housekeeping. Thank you for the reminder, John.
Yeah, I just remembered that, and obviously we would let people know before that anyway, but just for those listening, just to keep in mind, the next time you see the show, it will be on a weirder, not the normal Friday. It'll be on the Thursday.
And I'll make Rosh Hashanah dinner, Mom. I told you, I promised. See ya.
It's a thirsty. It'll be a thirsty Thursday at some capacity too. So.
It always is. All right, my friend. Have a good one. I will see you.
Thanks, everybody.
In the green room. Thank you, everyone.